The Colony Proddy Pro is an old school looking BMX bike for right under $1,000. Honestly, I was a little bit surprised by the quality. You might be here because I recommended this bike to you on the free bike recommendation that you filled out. If that's the case, stay tuned because I'm going to include everything that there is to know about this bike. And at the end, I'm going to give you the honest truth on whether or not I think this bike is worth the money. Sometimes this gets me in trouble, so make sure you stay until the end. So just looking at the Colony Proddy Pro, I'm very impressed and I see why they brought this bike back. During 2020 and 2021, there was an influx of riders joining the sport who rode in the 80s and rode in the 90s. This design mirrors bikes that were designed back then, so it gives people a comfortable feel if you were an old school BMX rider or you were a rider back in the day. This bike mirrors a lot of the geometries and a lot of the designs that you would see back then. Here are the 5 most important things that you need to know about this bike. It's going to weigh 24.7 pounds. It's going to cost you $979. Everything on this bike is fully customizable and fully upgradable. Although I don't think that you would want to upgrade very much on this bike because as it comes, it's a pretty high quality bike. It doesn't come with any pegs, but it does come with 3 hub guards. It comes with brakes, a gyro, and a front brake. Just like the Colony Apprentice, this bike's very similar. One thing that you're going to notice that it's different is where the brake mounts are. Traditionally, you're going to see BMX bikes with brakes up on the top above the chainstay. On this bike, the brake mounts are below on the bottom there where the chainstay is. So your brakes are right between your chain and your chainstay. It's pretty cool, and this is more of an old school thing. So those things are really important, but if your bike does not fit you, it's a waste of money and you shouldn't get it. So let's talk about the sizing of this bike and see who it's gonna fit. The Colony Proddy Pro has a 20.6 inch top tube length. This 20.6 inch top tube length is gonna make it best for riders who are between 5'6" and 5'9". Although if you're a little bit taller or a little bit smaller, this bike is still gonna be fine for you. Now, if you just found out that this bike is not the right size for you, I want you to click here and request a free bike recommendation. I'm going to find 3 bikes that are the perfect size for you so you can ride BMX comfortably and confidently. But back to the frame geometry. This bike has a 75.2 degree head tube angle. The chainstay is between 13.6 and 14.1. I'm going to say that this head tube angle is a little bit steeper than what you would normally see, especially on Colony BMX bikes, and this chainstay length is technically long, all things considered. To people who rode BMX in the 80s and the 90s, this is still a short chainstay, but to me and a lot of the modern BMX dudes, a 13.6 all the way to a 14-inch chainstay is very long. We're used to 13.2 and lower. This longer chainstay is going to make it a little bit harder to get that front wheel off the ground. It's going to make your bike more stable and less responsive in the back end, but overall controlling it and maneuvering it's going to be a little bit harder. There are part geometries that are really important to look at because they also impact how the bike handles and how the bike feels. The forks on the Colony Proddy Pro are 25mm offset forks. The handlebars have an 8.8 inch rise. The cranks are 170mm long. The stem is 50mm long. This bike has a 25:9 gear ratio. Everything's going to be on the right hand side and it comes with a cassette and not a free coaster. Like I said at the beginning, I was blown away by the quality of this bike for this price tag. Let me explain why this quality is so impressive. So the frame is an aftermarket Colony Proddy Light frame. Aftermarket frames have a lot more attention to detail that goes into them, making them more reliable and overall better quality. Not only does it have an aftermarket frame, it has aftermarket Colony Sweet Tooth forks. I've ridden these forks for a long time and I actually really like them. One different thing about these forks is that they have a CNC'd one-piece steer tube and they also have brake mounts that go on the front, and that's what allows the Proddy Pro to have brakes on the front. The handlebars are Colony Proddy aftermarket bars. The cranks are full chromoly 48 spline cranks, and the rims are double wall Colony Pintor rims. Overall, this quality is really nice, and when you look at this bike and this price tag compared to something like the Kink Williams, you'll notice that the Proddy Pro is overall much better quality than the Kink Williams for a little bit cheaper. I was really impressed with the Colony Wasp female hubs that are found on this bike, the Colony Grip Lock tires, and the Colony Squareback aftermarket stem, but a little bit let down by the cheap KMC chain that comes with it. Definitely upgrade that to a solid half-link chain as soon as you can. Because of how good the quality is on this bike, it does not technically have a weight limit. If you weigh 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 250 pounds, you're going to be fine riding this bike. You don't need something $1,500 to support your weight, because this bike, for most riders at most weight classes, are going to be perfectly fine riding it without worrying about things breaking. So here's the deal. If you're a rider who rode in the 80s, rode in the 90s, and you want to get back into BMX, but you don't want to switch to this crazy responsive geometry that we've become accustomed to, the Proddy Pro is going to be a really good choice. But if you have a local bike shop, I'd recommend that you swing by there and test ride some of the more modern geometry BMX bikes. You might really like how a shorter chainstay feels and how much easier it is to maneuver. If you're stuck in your ways and you just really want a bike that mirrors that older school geometry, has the frame design that matches that, and you want something really high quality, the Proddy Pro is the way to go. Although I don't think it's going to be a very popular option for most people. I think this bike particularly attracts older BMX riders who rode back in the day and want something good quality that looks a lot like the bike that they used to have.